Why did the video stop? My video is stopped, and I don't know how to get it back on. Are you familiar with the Zoom system? I suddenly, just by touching the phone, it went to a different mode. I apologize to the devotees who are patiently waiting.
Yeah, if you go to bottom left corner, there should be like a little mic. Okay, we have your video. We have it. The video is good. Audio is not good. Unmute, unmute, unmute.
Unmute?
Okay, perfect.
No, I'm not done speaking. I need to figure out how to get back to the video mode.
You are. We can see you. We cannot see you.
Hello, Hare Krishna.
We can hear you, but we can't see you. We can see you now, yes. Now is good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, you can hear me. I'll try again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It looks like I'm muted again. Can you hear me? Okay. You can hear. Okay. I'll try one more time and not touch it. You can still hear me. Hare Krishna. So this morning's Srimad-Bhagavatam reading is from the 9th canto.
23rd chapter.
For what verse we start at?
Chapter 23, verse 22 through 38.
I think we start at verse 22.
Yes.
Or 23.
22.
This chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter 23, is titled by Srila Prabhupada, The Dynasties of the Sons of Victi. So these remaining texts in this chapter don't have purports. So I'll chant one of them and we'll just read through the English. And then we'll talk about why, as devotees, we are reading about dynasties, ancient dynasties of kings and emperors. Because to some devotees, it's just lists of names without meaning. We're going to try to give meaning to this. There is a reason that this is in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, starting with text 22, Dharmastu Haya Suto Netrak Untek Pita Tataha Sohanjir Abavat Kunter Mahishman Bhadrasenakaha. Imagine, even all these names of kings and emperors, it's poetically written. Astonishing. Translation: the son of Haya was Dharma, and the son of Dharma was Netra, the father of Kunti. From Kunti came a son named Sohanji. From Sohanji came Mahishman, and from Mahishman, Bhadrasenaka. That's text 22. Now I'm just going to read English until if there's no purport, I'll try to give one, which is for you to tolerate. It's not a Prabhupada purport. was based on Prabhupada purports. Text 23, the sons of Bhadrasena were known as Durmada and Danaka. Danaka was the father of Kritavirya and also of Kritagni, Kritavarma, and Kritauja. Manaji, could I get your help for just one more thing? Can you turn these lights on? If it's possible, because it's directly over the book, I'll see it better. Thank you so much if it's possible. The son of Kritavirya was Arjuna. He, Kartaviryarjuna, became the emperor of the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, and received mystic power from Dattatreya, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he obtained the mystic perfections known as Ashta Siddhi. Thank you. Text 25. No other king in this world could equal Kartaviryarjuna in sacrifices, charity, austerity, mystic power, education, strength, or mercy. For 85,000 years, Kartaviryarjuna continuously enjoyed material opulences with full bodily strength and unimpaired memory. In other words, he enjoyed inexhaustible material opulences with his 6 senses. Of the 1,000 sons of Kartaviryarjuna, only 5 remained alive after the fight with Parashurama. Their names were Jayadvaja, Shurasena, Rishabha, Madhu, and Urjita. Text 28. Jayadvaja had a son named Talanjanga, who had 100 sons. All the Kshatriyas in that dynasty, known as Talajanga, were annihilated by the great power received by Maharaj Sagara from Arva Rishi. Text 29. Of the sons of Talajanga, Victihotra was the eldest. The sons of Victihotra, the son of Victihotra, named Madhu, had a celebrated son named Vrishni. Madhu had 100 sons, of whom Vrishni was the eldest. The dynasties known as Yadava, Madhava, and Vrishni had their origin from Yadu, Madhu, and Vrishni. Text 30 and 31 are combined. O Maharaj Parikshit, because Yadu, Madhu, and Vrishni each inaugurated a dynasty, their dynasties are known as Yadava, Madhava, and Vrishni. The son of Yadu, named Kroshta, had a son named Vrijinavan. The son of Vrijinavan was Svahita. The son of Svahita, Vishadgu. The son of Vishadgu, Chitrarata. And the son of Chitrarata, Shashabindu. The greatly fortunate Shashabindu, who was a great mystic, possessed 14 opulences and was the owner of 14 great jewels. Thus, he became the emperor of the world. This is a short purport. In the Markandeya Purana, the 14 kinds of great jewels are described as follows. And I can't explain how these next 14 words are jewels exactly, but I'm just reading. An elephant jewel, a horse, a chariot, a wife, arrows, a reservoir of wealth, a garland, valuable costumes, trees, a spear, a noose, jewels, an umbrella, and regulative principles. To be the emperor, one must possess all 14 of these opulences. Shashabindu possessed them all. I am certain of one thing. This is not our Kali Yuga understanding of an elephant or an umbrella or a tree. This is something much different than what we might associate with those words. I can't say anything more than that. Text 32. The famous Shashabindu had 10,000 wives, and by each he begot a lakh of sons. A lakh means 100,000. So 10,000 wives. Therefore, the number of his sons was 10,000 lakhs. 10,000, 100,000 sons. Text 33. Among these many sons, 6 were the foremost, such as Prithu and Prithu. The son of Prithu was known as Dharma, and his son was known as Ushana. Ushana was the performer of 100 horse sacrifices. The son of Ushana was Ruchaka, who had 5 sons, Purujit, Rukma, Rukmeshu, Prithu, and Yamaga. Please hear of these sons from me. Now, text 35 and 36 are combined. Yamaga had no sons, but because he was fearful of his wife, Shaibya, he could not accept another wife. Yamaga once took from the house of some royal enemy a girl who was a prostitute. But upon seeing her, Shaibya was very angry and said to her husband, "My husband, you cheater, who is this girl sitting upon my seat on the chariot?" Yamaga then replied, "This girl will be your daughter-in-law." Upon hearing these joking words, Shaibya smilingly replied. Text 37. Shaibya said, "I am sterile and have no co-wife. How can this girl be my daughter-in-law? Please tell me." Yamaga replied, "My dear queen, I shall see that you indeed have a son, and that this girl will be your daughter-in-law." Text 38, this is the final text of this chapter. Long, long ago, Jamagya had satisfied the demigods and the Pitas by worshiping them. Now, by their mercy, Jamagya's words came true. Although Shaibya was barren, by the grace of the demigod, she became pregnant, and in due course of time gave birth to a child named Vidarbha. Before the child's birth, the girl had been accepted as a daughter-in-law, and therefore Vidarbha actually married her when he grew up. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto 23rd chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Dynasties of the Sons of Victi. So when you next continue your reading into chapter 24, you will be reading how these dynasties lead up to the appearance of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the dynasty. Amazing. So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshush Unmilitan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripasindu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasa Adi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So we are reading in this 9th canto the dynasties that ultimately originated from the sun god and from the moon god, the demigod of the sun, Vivaswan, of course, representing Krishna, and Chandra, demigod of the moon. Through these dynasties, different incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead chose to appear on earth at different times. You have Lord Ramachandra, you have Lord Parashuram, eventually you have other incarnations and Shaktivesh avatars, and eventually you have the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, and so on. So why are we interested in this antiquity, this history? It causes us to think of how the world is supposed to be managed and organized and led and ruled. The king or emperor of the world, or a part of the world, that post up until Kali Yuga, or maybe a little into Kali Yuga, that post is held by a Kshatriya who is guided by very learned Brahmins to understand purpose of the universe, the purpose of the planet, the purpose of this earthly realm, and to understand what are the laws of Krishna, the laws of God that are meant to be followed in order to organize society to achieve purpose, the purpose for which the world is created, the purpose for which living entities are placed within this material realm. This has been forgotten, the concept that the universe has purpose, the concept that earth has purpose. It is the great work of the demons of our age, godless scientists, godless teachers or educators or professors that have done everything they can to separate out God from the workings of the world, nature. And thus, by considering God another topic purely of faith and not of science, not demonstrable, not able to be verified scientifically, this is their idea, their misconception. They go about finding ways to explain the creation without any creator, They go about trying to find ways to explain the origins of life and planets without any originator, without any designer, even though they see design in life and design in evolution of life. They want to have design with no designer. And so they fabricate theories that would explain how it's possible by some atoms and molecules and chemicals combining in various ways, that this could just happen by chance on its own. Even the harder question of where do all those chemicals and molecules and atoms have come from, they have convoluted, godless explanations that basically that some singularity always existed, and at some point billions of years ago erupted and nature came pouring out. They fail to see the irony of where that singularity comes from, and the idea that something comes pouring out implies a living force. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada has taught us that godless science is the greatest demon of this age. And the reason he said that is because without understanding God and his laws, you can't assign any absolute purpose to why you exist and why the world exists. And it just leaves everyone, which is their intent, free to just make up their own purpose and thus go through life without understanding, true understanding of the consequences of behavior, the consequences of just trying to decide the purpose of life is for me to enjoy, me to exploit and possess and enjoy everything that I can acquire and come in contact with for as long as I live. Basically, they have assigned that as the godless purpose of all life. And thus, the actual purpose of life in this material world is spoiled. They have no idea, although they have some theories about evolution, but they don't associate evolution with an eternal living being who is going through these stages of evolution. So they consider each birth to be unique identity, which dies after death, and they don't realize that the living entity, the jiva, the eternal jiva, has had to undergo millions of evolutionary births and evolutionary deaths, moving from the lower to the higher species, suffering over and over again the pangs of birth and disease and old age and death and the threefold miseries of the body, of enemies attacking its body, and of nature ravishing its body, until finally, after millions and millions of years and millions of births, the soul is promoted into a human body. Now it carries in this human form of life unlimited, uncountable seeds of material desires within its heart. They're like seeds being sown in a field when you get a human body. And without, again, understanding how to organize the world and how to organize society and how to organize your life and your home, you just start acting on these seeds as they begin to fructify and grow. And you have no sense that anything is wrong. You say, oh, this is what I feel. How I feel is so important. That's the reality. My reality is my feelings coming from material desires that I've carried in seed-like form through millions of lifetimes. So now we come back to this section of the Bhagavatam describing these great dynasties and king after king and emperor after emperor. These are positions or posts that Brahmins guide such rulers to organize their kingdoms based on what is the real purpose of life and what are the true laws of God that should not be violated in order to avoid terrible consequences. And so reading of these dynasties and kings and emperors during Vedic civilizations, Vedic times we call it, points to how the world or a country or nation or state is supposed to be led. Who is supposed to be guiding us? And what mission does that ruler of the state or country or world have? And to keep him on the right path, how very learned Brahmins are posted as not only guiding that ruler, but when the ruler deviates, correcting him, even punishing him. We have read of some of these amazing punishments in this ninth canto. It's just an explanation of how God wanted the world to be organized, so that ultimately every living being can be protected and guided towards the true purpose of life in the material world, which is to end all these material desires, these material seeds. Prabhupada gives a wonderful example. When he explains the first verse of the Guru Vastakam that we chant every morning at the Mangal Arti, Samsara Dava Nadalida Loka. The spiritual master is like an ocean of mercy pouring out, flooding the devotees, flooding every living being that comes in contact with him. And Prabhupada compares this to the monsoon rains that pour over the land, so that if a farmer has planted seeds, that those monsoon rains wash them away before they ever fructify and grow. That's the power of this bona fide, pure devotee, spiritual master. He pours the rain like ocean-like mercy of the spiritual potencies, eternal potencies, knowledge potency, love potencies, all these spiritual potencies pouring out of the Guru, pure devotee, which wash away the seeds that are lying in our hearts. So that's the actual purpose of life, to bring souls, to protect them while they're coming in contact with their Guru, who is guiding them and purifying them and teaching them how, when they're finally free from these attractions, they can truly become free from the endless cycles of birth and death and rebirth and death. So these great kings and emperors They're supposed to organize their states, their nations, their worlds for that end. And that's why just hearing their names, which Sukadeva Goswami is reciting, is purifying. In fact, there's actually one verse or one place in Prabhupada's purport in this canto where he writes and explains that just to hear this, something we would not imagine, just to hear the names of all of these bona fide rulers frees one from the effects of one's own sinful karmic reactions. That's astonishing, because it's freeing our mind from the concepts of a godless world. It's freeing our hearts from the desires that of the concept and desire that we can act on anything and do whatever we want for material, bodily, and mental gratification, sensory gratification. Hearing this and understanding the role of rulers, the true role of a leader, is purifying. So now let's come to our, we have a few more moments. Let's come to our current condition and condition of the state or city or nation or our world as we perceive it here in this Kali Yuga. There's no concept at the present time of the selection of a ruler who is trained to protect all the living beings in his realm, and that includes in other species, not just human. There's no concept that such rulers are going to be guided by God-realized Brahmins, and that together they're going to comprehend and enforce everyone following the laws of God. There's no concept of that when we go in this demon crazy, democracy Prabhupada once called it demon crazy, system of voting, the blind voting in a leader who is also blind. How many times have we heard Prabhupada say, when the blind follow a blind person into a ditch? That is what's happening right now. And sometimes devotees may even get caught up in the ephemeral winds of politics and think, oh, this is a person who is better than that person. And they come up with different reasons. The whole system is, it's not based on God is real. God is everywhere. Everything belongs to God, and everything has a purpose. As the creator, as the designer, as the proprietor of everything, everything has a purpose. We have no such elected officials. So we should never fall prey to these foolish winds that, oh, this elected official will be better than that one. None of them actually are proper leaders. And that is the current state in the Kali Yuga that has caused Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva and the great acharyas of our sampradaya to appear and to inaugurate a Hare Krishna movement. Our movement is predicted to end this betrayal, this system of separating out God from our leaders and from our lives. Now, we are in the first 50 years or so of our movement, 55 years of our modern Hare Krishna movement. So devotees may wonder, how is that going to come about, that the Hare Krishna movement is going to change all of this? And I'm going to close by sharing with you some conversations that I had with Srila Prabhupada in early 1977. I had the opportunity to spend hours each day with Srila Prabhupada in conversations as we were, he allowed me to be his traveling secretary, and we were sharing the same sleeping train car as we traveled around India. And I was very fascinated by topics like this of history. And I asked Prabhupada at one point, how is this revolution going to take place? That unqualified leaders are removed and only qualified leaders that understand the principles of a God-centered society will replace them. I asked if this was going to be done in the form of a violent revolution. And I used examples in history, like how in Russia, there was a violent overthrow of the unqualified family of czars. And that's how Marxism and Leninism was introduced to the world. A small, powerful group was able to take over the government by force. I asked Prabhupada, is that going to happen? Is that how this Hare Krishna movement, as you've predicted, changes the world? And Prabhupada said, oh no, that is not exactly, that is not how it's going to happen. He said, people are changing. And as they change, due to the influence of the Sankirtan Yagya, their religious sentiments will be awakened. And so in a short span of time, they will be calling out for a God-conscious ruler, a ruler guided by God-conscious Brahmins. And I was amazed to hear that. And Prabhupada said, it depends on your mass book distribution, and you're constantly going out and performing Harinam Sankirtan. And then he explained to me, we know from Bhagavad Gita that Krishna has promised that whatever steps you take towards him in this life, unlike any other material activity which ends at death of the body, actions that you have taken to go closer to Krishna, they don't end. In fact, you begin your next life where you left off. So here we are, starting in the 1970s, distributing millions and millions of transcendental literatures to people every year throughout the world. And those people who are accepting those literatures and even giving a donation to receive them, and then looking at the artwork and being attracted, even the simplest things as reading one word, Bhagavad Gita, back to God, even reading one simple phrase, they will begin in their next life where they left off. Now, millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of literature that we distribute year after year, it's simple transcendental math. Future births, they'll begin where they left off. Again, the book distributors and Sankirtan devotees will approach them. They'll even be more receptive naturally. And again, next life, they'll begin where they left off. Sooner or later, the world is going to be filled up with millions and billions of people who have heard the holy names and taken our books. Sooner or later. And that effect awakens their tendency, the conditioned souls, the jivatma, the marginal potency of God has two main tendencies: to go to God or to go away from God. We are creating the awakening of that tendency in billions of souls to go towards God. If someone asks, what's the effect of all this book distribution? I always say, ask me in 100 years. That's my answer. Just wait and ask me in 50 or 100 years and you will see. And Srila Prabhupada explained one more thing to me. I forgot, what time does this class end sharply? At 8:15? Mataji, do you know? Anyone?
8 o'clock, but you can
You're
go
muted.
8 o'clock.
So I
8.
don't know.
8 o'clock.
8:15, you could say yes
8 o'clock.
in 8 minutes.
8 o'clock.
Okay.
8 o'clock.
Is that when we have
Yeah.
Didi greeting?
We open the curtains around 8, but you can go.
I'll just finish this one point then. Prabhupada said something amazing to me that I had never realized before. He said, when you go out on Sankirtan, there is a eternal spiritual energy that is going into the atmosphere of this earthly realm. And unlike anything else that goes into the atmosphere, this never dissipates. This never goes away. Gradually, by us, year after year, generation after generation, going out on public Sankirtan, the spiritual potencies are filling the atmosphere to the point, Prabhupada told me, that we're changing the whole atmosphere of this planet so that anyone in the future taking birth in this planet will be influenced by that atmosphere, and just naturally their religious sentiment, that better side of the marginal potencies, the jiva, will just awaken because the atmosphere awakens them. These are the effects of the Sankirtan Yajna and of transcendental book distribution. So I can't hear anyone, so I'm sorry
Thank
I
you,
can't take
Ramesvara,
questions, but
Prabhupada.
we're over time anyway. I thank you for letting me speak a little bit about Srila Prabhupada, his message, and of reading this divine Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Ramesvara, Prabhupada. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I hear you saying something. I see you saying something, but for some reason I have no ability to hear what you're saying.
We wanted to see if we have questions from the people attending the class.
Is anyone else here? I can't. He's talking and I can't hear.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
I don't know why, but he hears me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Anyway,
I
thank
you hear me,
you,
Ramesvara, Prabhupada?
and we're going to prepare for the greeting of the deities. Hare Krishna. Obeisances to all. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. We'll see everyone tomorrow, and in 100 years, see everyone back to this class. Hare Krishna.